Mic's on. All right, so let's stand for the pledge. And then we'll call the meeting to order after, I guess.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we'll call the meeting to order at 7:04. Karen, are you all set?
I will be in a second as soon as I change the 0 to 4.
Okay,
Now I'm all set.
thank you. We have Jen Green here to speak with us. Jen, thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. I would like to discuss the purging of some patron accounts that have been either expired for a certain number of years or their last activity date has been for a certain number of years. We typically purge patron accounts every once they've been expired for 3 years and there's been no activity without any fines on the accounts. And what I would like to propose is that we perhaps forgive some of the fines from $20 and under, which I've broken out into 4 different tiers for you. And it just depends on how long the account has been inactive. So I have a second tier for anyone who owes between 10 cents and $5 that their last activity date has been at least 4 years ago, and all cards are expired for at least 3 years. And then it progresses. Third tier is between $5 and 1 cent up to 10, and their last activity date and expiration has been over 5 years. And then the fourth is between $10 and 1 cent and $20, and they've been expired for at least 5 years, but really their last activity date has been over 10 years. The total fine forgiveness is $2509.68, and the total amount of purged patron accounts would be $2628. It would slightly alter our GMILK's formula number. Most of the time, Maryland only uses active card users, so it wouldn't alter it very much. I think just for the some of the accounts are expired, but they have no last activity date, which is kind of a weird situation that can't really be explained, I suppose. Just kind of those weird things that filter through the cracks in our system that doesn't track a last activity date. But those ones would be taken out of the GMILK's formula for the next year.
Does anybody have any questions?
So you said that it doesn't affect the total number of total number of active patrons. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. These are all patrons that their accounts are either expired. Well, their accounts are expired.
But they're being deleted from the total number
Yes.
of patrons in it. So it doesn't affect that number?
Oh, it will. Right
okay,
now
that's
we
what I
have
asked.
15,488 accounts, and if we did this entire purge, we would be down to 12,860.
That's what I was
But then that
asking.
would all be active accounts, somebody who has used their card within the last 3 years.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. The O's between numbers, is that specifically fines or fines in replacement or missing material or?
This is only overdue fines. None of this is replacement costs or lost or damaged materials.
Okay. And then I was wondering why for tier 3 and 4 you changed the expired at least went from 3 to 5.
Really, it was just, that was kind of the formula that a lot of other libraries do. Their fine forgiveness kind of increases with the length of time that the patron has been expired or their activity date has been so long, thinking if somebody hasn't been to the library in 10 years, we're probably not going to see that $20 again. So
Right.
it's best to forgive it, move on, clear out our database, which I think there's about, I want to say 4 to 5 GMILK's libraries who operate that way.
When was the last time the library did a purge such as this?
The last time that the library did a patron purge was in 2016, and that was only for accounts that had no fines whatsoever on them.
So I'll just say the goal is to do it annually.
So this is just like the initial,
Yes.
And
A
then
little bit of housekeeping, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's a good idea annually to keep the numbers more accurate over time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the that first tier, the patron accounts, the 1,700 of them, those are going to be purged probably within the next month. But the rest of them, I just wanted to come and see if there would be any consideration of forgiving these fines so that we could really clear our database a little bit more thoroughly with patrons that I truly don't believe are going to be coming.
Yeah, and I could maybe offer, an alternative could be that we engage a collection agency and go after them. But what's the effectiveness of that?
Not enough money to.
No.
I
I'm
mean,
gonna
we're
have to
talking
weigh
between
the pros and cons here.
$20
Yeah.
and less.
Yeah.
So,
And there are accounts that exceed the $20 that fall under these same parameters. I chose 20 because that's how most libraries operate. Some will go up to 50. I thought this was a good way to at least start, and we can really see what the numbers look like after that. I can pull some more reports and.
And will this continue to be your responsibility to do this job, to do this task?
Yes.
It will be yours. Okay. So do we need a motion to forgive this amount of fine? Is that what we're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, well, I move that we forgive the total number of total amount of the fines, which is $2,509.68, as reflected on this document for all the patron accounts that apply in this document. That said right? Felt like it was coming out a little tumbly.
sure, you got the point across.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing that. I think it's just great to have a more accurate representation of who we're serving and what's out there. So
Yes.
that's great.
And I think that for some of these, they're juvenile accounts from so long ago. It would be lovely if when somebody came back, rather than be faced with maybe these fines when they were children,
Right.
now you can just say, welcome to the library.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Jen.
you so
Nice
much
to
for
see
having
you.
me.
Okay.
Can
All
I
right.
pause for a technical difficulty?
Sure.
I know I came in here before and I got on this network, but I can't seem to get connected today.
Want to hand that to Janet?
Isn't it once you are on it, doesn't it? Sorry.
Thank you. No, that's great. Well,
Trying to catch up to technology.
not a problem.
Save paper.
Safe paper.
Actually, I didn't connect either, so I'm doing
Awesome.
same thing.
Oh,
Oh,
I didn't think about it. Oh, mine's off too.
actually, I got connected. What did I connect to? Oh, mine connected normally.
It's not even showing up here. Oh, here it is. There we go.
I connected. I
Interesting.
don't know why you're not getting connected.
Well, I don't want to take up too much time. I've used it a couple times since I did it, but
Usually connects you again once you've been
Yeah,
on the
that's
Wi-Fi
what
network,
I'm
so that's unusual.
confused
So,
about.
Did you get that?
I did get that, but I don't have a code or a.
I don't know.
I have no
I'm
idea what
connected
that
and
is.
yours won't connect.
Mine's connected. Mine
All right.
connected when I clicked on it. MTH guest.
Yeah, exactly.
But then I keep getting this thing. I don't know what that is.
All right. So I might have to just pinch it, but it's okay.
Great. We have no appointments other than that, no public hearings that I'm aware.
Somebody said something about, one of the notes, the emails said something about public hearing.
Yeah, so we don't have a public hearing today. I need to post a public hearing. So I can email possible dates around, or we can decide today
Okay.
to set the public hearing.
That's to accept the
This is the CD.
donation?
The donation.
It's a donation.
Wasn't it a donation?
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Are y-
it didn't say about what.
Okay, so we have a donation that's a memorial, and it's,
Oh, I'm
ten-
sorry. I thought this was something else.
no. This is something I just heard about last week.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
And it's in excess of $5,000, so we need to have a public hearing. So, we can hold this for your November meeting, or we can schedule it sooner, but the notice has to be published 7 days before the meeting.
Would you like us to have it before?
I would
the-
like you to have it before your
Okay.
November meeting,
Yeah, okay.
just so that the estate can be
Mm-hmm.
settled.
Okay.
So, if you want to look at other Tuesdays but I have to get it out
Mhm.
to the paper. So even if we meet in 3 weeks, that will give me time to confirm with the paper for them to set it up and then have 7 days.
So 3 weeks from this Tuesday, from today.
All right, 3 weeks from Tuesday.
Is that
The other thing, on the Tuesday, you have a tentative, which I haven't confirmed with you, but I have confirmed with 2 architects. You have a meeting at 6:30. So if you wanted to do a public hearing at 6:15,
Which day? I'm sorry.
29, October 29.
Can we do it before that? That seems like that would make more sense than trying to find another. Would October 29th at 6:15 work for people?
I'm good.
I could do it.
What else was scheduled on that day? I'm sorry.
The architects.
Oh, the architects. Okay. That's fine.
So if we could do, if that's okay with you,
Okay.
Karen, if we could do that all at once, that seems to make more sense
We'll
than,
do so we'll have architects and,
I'll email that
Do this.
detail around.
yeah.
okay.
Yep, if we're going to be there anyways, we should do that, and that's lovely.
Where is this going to be?
Well, if it's, you could be anywhere. Can have it in my office, and, if anyone wants to show up, if any of the public wants to show up
Yeah.
to the meeting, they can come in.
Hearing, and then the meeting with the architects.
So we will have a public meeting on October 29th, and we will post that.
At 6:15?
Okay, great. Thank you,
Wait.
Yvette.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Do you have a concern?
No, it was more for clarification, but I'm good.
Okay, great. Are we ready to move on to old business?
Just 1 second.
Okay.
29th.
Okay.
Okay, I'm okay.
Great, thanks. So in looking at the action items that were on the September minutes, there aren't that many outstanding. There's reviewing the COLA raises for staff.
And we got
Treasurer.
that today.
We just needed to vote. So I sent them out again
Yeah.
for what we talked about, and we just have to vote.
So this is old business.
We've talked about it a couple of times
Yes.
now, right?
Yep, so we just want to have a vote on record. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I can make a motion.
Thank you, Janet.
I make a
now?
motion that we accept the pay raise schedule that was proposed last month,
Well, you're talking about this one.
that one.
Yeah, which is called, no, it's titled, should have a title.
It's-
Salary schedule?
So-
This document says pay tables draft August 2019 support staff. That's the
Yes.
name of this document,
Yeah,
which is what
it's a,
you're referring to.
right, there, and that's why I have draft. Right, it's a pay table, so, but it's a pay raise schedule.
Well, we've called it a salary schedule.
Salary
Salary
schedule.
Okay,
Okay,
salary schedule.
dated August 2019, so it's,
That was proposed in
Reference.
September.
Actually, I sent out a new one that's dated,
I just printed this one for today.
2000, it's, for
I-
today's, it's 2019-10. Doesn't matter, I'll send it out and it'll be,
That's what
it's still the same thing.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept the salary schedule that we've discussed at multiple meetings, and which is based on the survey,
Salary schedule.
or the study, rather, that was done.
Yep.
I'll second
I
that.
move we accept, oh, I'm
Wait a
sorry.
minute.
That's okay. Janet had made a motion,
Oh,
and I was
okay.
just going to second the motion to accept the salary schedule. I'm Janet,
That-
second.
That was proposed in September and proposed and discussed.
Mhm. Are there any additional concerns before we take a vote? Okay, all in favor? And thank you to Janet for your work on this.
And I will rename it and send it out to everybody.
Mhm.
But, and it will not say draft.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
And then where does it go?
To Yvette.
Okay.
So that's,
Done.
that was
I
one.
mean, I assume that, but I just,
September action.
Right.
I wanted verification.
We put, oh, goodness gracious, we could put a copy of that in our manual, so we have a reference for next year. Just sort of helps to be able to reflect back without having to search through our documents.
I have lots of extra copies. It's a draft, but it's not gonna
Well,
change.
she's going to send out the original.
Okay,
Okay.
Send
so,
out.
sure, we'll put that in there. The next one was the determining if the Library Board of Trustee elections need to be restructured and how that should happen. Once we get through this architect meeting, because we were waiting to schedule a date for that, I would like to start going to some local trustee meetings. If there's anyone who would be interested, I can send you out some dates for November and December once I make contact with some of the boards of comparable sized libraries. And if someone would like to join me, or people would like to go on days I can't, I think it would just be great for us to get some different perspectives.
Well, why don't you, let us know when you get some dates?
Yep.
And we can do it by email?
Awesome, that's
'Cause
exactly what I'll do.
I can do that.
Great. Yeah, so I just do want to touch base with the people so that on the other board, so they know why we're
Yeah,
coming and
yeah.
that sort of thing. So, so once we get through the architects meeting, and then people hopefully will have some free time in November and December might be a joke. We're going to do the best that we can. So, okay. So that's an action item. The next thing, other action items on our list were completed. So there was the trustee investment guidelines, which the Finance Committee, I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at that to clarify
No.
my question. Okay, we can, and,
That's actually, we're gonna meet Friday.
okay, great. And then the director will get a quote to either replace or repaint railings. Do you have any news for us on
I
that?
don't have a quote on the railings, but the vendor was at the library and talked to us about what the project would entail,
Okay.
but didn't get me a quote yet.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Well, thank you for looking into
Yep.
that. Were there any action items that were not noted on the minutes or things that people are concerned about?
I do have, I did take money out from fines and deposited into Fidelity, into the blue chip that we said we're going to, and these are all the confirmations that are going to Yvette.
Okay, great, thank you. Yes, that was an action item. It did say done, and
Yes.
it was done.
It was
Thank you.
done, and
Well, what-
Great, yes.
Done, and
Wait,
then you
once we
did
knew
it.
Janet was going to do it, it
Like,
was done.
here
Okay,
is
the confirmation, so,
it's all
great,
confirmation.
thank you. Okay, next on our agenda, the quarterly statistics review. Is there anything more for that, or did we address that?
Okay, so I believe it was a little ambitious for me to tell you that you could receive the quarterly statistics today.
Okay,
Since the statistics cover July, August, September, and we're at, October 15th, the staff, each department head, I'm pretty confident to say, every single one of us has been out with some form of the flu.
Oh gosh, we had that in our
Not
school.
overlapping, of course. And then Brendan was out on vacation. So, you know, that was one issue. But also, we changed the form that, you know, we're not just lifting the same numbers. We, you know, updated and changed. This is not going to be called this, and we added this thing. So it's not as cut and dry as I probably thought. Oh yeah, it's just the quarterly statistics. It's
Okay.
a little more time. So, you know, definitely you'll have it next month.
Okay, so
No
we'll just,
problem.
can we leave that as an action item or,
Yep.
so, yeah. The Library Board of Trustee manual review, that's a placeholder to keep us on task with that, which we're gonna keep going, because we talked about doing that on a Saturday, so. Investment of Library Board of Trustee funds. I'm not sure if that was referring to the money that you were gonna move or the policy.
I think it was the money I moved.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. And the staff salary schedule. We
Which
took care
we
of that.
just did.
Awesome. Okay. Was there any other old business that people were expecting to be addressed? Okay. Ready to move on to new business. Policies. Do you have any policies for us?
Okay,
Yvette?
the only thing that is kind of like a policy is the proposed holiday schedule that is usually be reviewed by the board at the October meeting. So what we do with this is we always look back to which year, you know, so 4 years ago, all of these holidays fell on, you know, a Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it was. And we see what has been approved in the past. So this is what it looks like from 4 years ago. The difference from, let's say this year is that the Independence Day holiday, July 4th, falls on a Saturday. Independence Day is observed on the 3rd. In terms of staffing, you know, full-time staff receive 8 hours of holiday. So if we counted this Saturday, which is a 4-hour day, it would make it very complicated for full-time staff to figure out when are they going to take their holiday hours earlier in the week. Much easier to just do the observed holiday on the 3rd, which is probably what all the other libraries in the town is going to do, although I don't have any of those out yet. But so that's one thing that's a little unusual for next year. We would still recommend staying open on Columbus Day and then having that holiday move to the day after Thanksgiving, which is the Friday.
You have that listed as a floating holiday.
Yeah.
So that would be the Columbus Day, it's not a floating holiday.
We're switching out, I'm recommending again that we switch out Columbus Day, which some libraries were closed, some libraries were open, town hall was open, schools were closed. So it's a holiday that is not mandated that we need to be closed on as a government building. You know, I asked the staff when I saw the department heads today, and I said, so how, I mean, I was in my office, but how busy was it on the floor? And they're like, it's not busy at all. So people take advantage of a long weekend. It was a beautiful day yesterday, so hopefully they are really able to take advantage of that weather. But it just seems to make a lot more sense in terms of you know, the practical sense of, you know, the day after Thanksgiving. People are away. You know, people are away. So that's why we're going to float it. I think we're just calling it floating maybe next year, or I can change it this year and just totally delete Columbus Day as a reference point and just put in the day after Thanksgiving as a just closed holiday. I think,
There's a reason to keep it on there.
I don't think, it's a reference point for you, so I can
Yeah.
strike it out.
Need for it.
That's fine.
I
So,
like that the library is
any-
open on Columbus Day. I think it's good to be open on Columbus Day. I think that it might not have been as busy as you would have expected, but I think you'll get more people than you would on the day after Thanksgiving, and it's just.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
Right, so now I'm confused. We are not opening on Columbus Day.
Oh,
We are.
Open,
We are,
open on
okay.
Columbus Day.
All right.
But I'll just delete it so it will
Oh, I see what you're
not
saying.
cause that confusion.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
probably
like,
my
wait,
fault,
did
I'm
she
sorry.
just say-
Never mind. I'll just delete.
I just wanted to highlight that August 30th for Labor Day weekend. It's actually September 5th.
Yeah, it's later.
Oh, shoot, okay.
And our school's changing their start date just this particular
Okay.
year.
Yeah,
before
and
Labor
we're
Day.
still closed on that Sunday for the summer. That's still our, Sundays,
Yes.
we're just closed. That's the last Sunday we'd be closed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Friends might decide to have their book sale later in the month. We used to have the book sale the weekend right after Labor Day. So that's just another thing in terms of our calendar we think about.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Yvette?
Do we have to make a motion, or that was just a review?
Usually, yes, the trustees approve closing.
I make a motion
Holidays.
that we accept the proposed holiday schedule as listed, being open on October 12th, Columbus Day, and using the floating holiday for Friday, November 27th, when the library will be closed.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, staff recognition. So this is our opportunity to recognize Yvette. Yvette just celebrated her 10-year anniversary.
I forgot the plaque. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I was like killing myself.
It's okay. So I just have some notes on some things that you have done in your 10 years here at the library, and I'm sure there are many, many more.
Hi.
But these are some of the highlights. Some of the obvious ones, obviously, we're thrilled to have passport services, notary services be so much more extensive, voter registration at the library. You brought the Teen Squad to the Merrimack Library, giving teens a chance to simulate the work experience, including interviews, scheduling, working on group tasks. The changes to the collection, including the cake pans, the instruments, the gaming systems, and the seismograph, which I understand you were behind primarily on the fundraising, and which is an amazing thing to have. What a treasure. Things that you've done in the building: reclaiming the Lowell Room for the public, which is a wonderful space, creating an area for teens, relocating the circulation and reference desk, and giving us that space as patrons to pick up our own reserves, which is just wonderful, and the drive-up book returns. Those have been great. I'm sure you've done many other things, but those were some of the ones that stood out. Your work with the Chamber on the new resident bag program, the Business Book Club for Chamber members, NaNoWriMo, bringing National Novel Writing Month to the library, including all the supporting activities. And what's the one called when you celebrate at the end? Isn't there like a day that's...
TGIO.
Thank God.
Thank goodness it's over.
Okay, so that's wonderful, and it's a natural thing for us to be supporting writers. The little free libraries at Wasserman and Twin Bridges Parks, and then the 2 author events that we just had this, and I'm sure there have been other wonderful programs, but to bring authors like Jared Krasoska, am I close? Krasoska, thank you, who was amazing, and Chris Bojalian, which was a wonderful, wonderful event for this community. So for all this and much more, thank you so much for all that you have done. So I appreciate it, very wonderful. So
Look at all your eyes, thank you.
no, really, as we were reading this over, because someone at the library helped me a bit with this list, it was amazing to see all of these things. And again, I'm sure this is just skimming the surface. So thank you. Those are wonderful
You're
things.
very welcome.
Okay. So,
Well,
after
thank
that.
you. Thank you for the recognition, and it went by really quickly. It's a little bit weird, but thank you.
Well, I think we all appreciate your willingness to try new things, because it's great. Why not? Let's see what happens. So thank you. And on that topic, we do need to have a motion to purchase the gift card for Yvette.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Which I have not spent.
so yeah. So
I motion that we,
unofficial.
how much do we need to approve?
yeah, I believe it was
Yeah.
$50. So do you have a motion to approve?
So I motion that we approve $50 for a gift card for Yvette Kauser, who's celebrating her 10-year anniversary with the library.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor? Great, thank you. That brings us to the trustee gift policy, which Janet, would you like to speak to this? Because we were all together when we did this, or would you like-
Sure.
Okay.
we were,
Do you want me to speak to this?
sure.
You
have it.
Thanks. So, what I included in your packets is a guideline or a chart or suggestions from the board. Previous boards have approved these amounts to recognize staff anniversaries. So what it says is staff have received gift certificates in the increments below, and their name has been added to a recognition plaque that hangs in the hallway outside of the elevator on the lower level. Monies were paid from special. So for 5 years, it's $25, 10 years, it's 50, 15 years is 60, 20 plus years is 75. Along with these anniversary gifts, there's also holiday gifts that in the past the trustees have approved are in December, traditionally in the holidays. And there is kind of a note from a text from a previous board member with guidance for the library staff. Everyone got one $25 gift certificate to a restaurant. And then the anniversaries used to be celebrated at the end of the year. There was actually a Christmas party that you probably still had
yes.
this. Yeah, so traditionally the trustees hosted a Christmas party dinner at a restaurant, local restaurant, when all the staff anniversaries would be recognized regardless of when they fell during the year. And then, you know, past employees were invited, friends were invited. It was nice, but by the time I had come on board, then you know, the staff changed, and, you know, a lot of people weren't able to come back to celebrate, and it really became a lot of friends and trustees, you know. So, you know, people weren't, I think the board started to feel that the staff they wanted to recognize at the holidays for their work that year weren't showing up to dinner. You know, they had other obligations. It was hard. It was around the holidays, December. So then that's when you guys started to do the breakfast, and that's in the library, and everyone, you know, actually the staff are there. So the other note on this is a couple years ago we had to figure out, or the board had to figure out a dollar amount for 25 years and 30 years, and that's just because staff had actually reached that year, you know, that tenure. So that's what's broken down here. It's added for, you know, 75 is 20, 25, 30. And the note about there's one staff person who hit 30 years a couple years ago, and we didn't have, you know, the plaques, if you remember them, they're, you know, they're as big as, you know, they're actually bigger than probably a piece of paper. But they have nameplates with individual staff on it with their year when they hit that anniversary. So there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and there's one individual person who has a 30-year plaque. If we have someone, any other staff who stay for 30 years, we would change that plaque perhaps. I don't actually know. That would be 10 years down the road. But so anyway, that's what, you know, as my understanding as the director, the previous trustee boards have approved. I don't know how far back this goes. But, you know, it's something that you can always opt to change. You can always opt to clarify. You know, another thing that we talked about in this conversation, and this was a conversation that came up when Deb and Janet and I were working on the agenda, was, you know, if there's a funeral, the birth of a baby, a marriage, you know, some personal thing that happens to someone of recognition, you know, someone who might be a public figure in the town or one of the staff, then previous boards have authorized me to send, you know, funeral flowers or pick out a wedding gift or something like that. So that also came up in conversation, so it fell under, you know, gifts, and I think you suggested, you know, we should probably have this written as a policy and
Right.
vote on it and have, you know, we have guidelines, but kind of tie it all together because some of it was kind of ethereal, so.
Right.
And I think also that we might, you know, in time, look at this and say, oh, that doesn't seem quite right. The amounts, as inflation, you know,
Sure.
as things change. So at least if we have it documented, we have a working document to work off of, and future boards also can have something to look at rather than have it sort of piecemeal in different places. So.
Right, and I was saying, Laura, I said at this meeting, that's kind of how I understand the manual came about, because there was a lot of information that was kind of floating around the library that, I knew where it was, and Joanne knew where it was. If I didn't know where it was, she knew where it was, but this would be the kind of thing that would go into
Yeah.
that manual.
I would recommend, rather than converting it to a policy, this is, can be something that's a little more fluid than that, and put it as a guideline, so that it's more quickly and easily changed than a policy. Policies usually renew, you review them once a year, whereas a guideline, you can just sort of change that at will if you need to.
That's up to you.
That would be my recommendation for this. The other thought I had is that we increase these amounts a little bit, because they've been long-term. And we do $25 at Christmas, so it would seem that maybe if we increase those amounts a little more, they might be a little more meaningful.
I think everyone absolutely, everyone appreciated this.
Yeah.
It's nice to be recognized that way. It's up to you. But this is what, we talked about, so here it is in your meeting packet, and you guys can decide what you want.
Perhaps the finance committee could discuss that and decide, come up with a recommendation on the best way to manage this, unless does anyone have an opinion on it one way or the other?
Well, I just know that the last time that I remember talking about what's the amount, I had to go back through my meeting minutes and go, oh yeah, last year we approved, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm in favor of having it somewhere,
Yeah.
so it can be accessed and.
Yeah, you could include parameters for the breakfast, like what we would do is vote for a certain amount to be spent, up to a certain amount, including food
Right.
and drink, as well as gift cards.
Well, this is referring to gift cards rather than the amount we'd spend on a party. That's what this is about. That's how I'm interpreting it.
And that's what I was referring to. We had come up with, we get 10 people, $25 cards, and it came to $625, and we hadn't approved it before we'd actually done it. So I was seeing this as a way to, okay, yeah, remember we said this, and so it just,
So,
we don't have to stop and recalculate it every time, or depending on the amount of staff.
so the conversation was that you commented on funerals, weddings, other, would seem to me would fall under this as well.
I think it would be helpful, because what I mentioned to Janet and Deb was, when you have someone who passes away and they say in lieu of flowers, I don't know what to do. I think if the treasurer wanted me to send you an email saying, hey, so-and-so is getting married, so-and-so is whatever, then you just take care of it.
Right.
I don't have to decide anything. It's very uncomfortable for me to go, well, I don't know. So, if you wanted guidelines or policy, anything that should be spelled out.
One of the things I had mentioned is when people say in lieu of flowers, they ask for perhaps make a donation to another charity, and we talked about how that plays out with library money. But one of the things I suggested was perhaps asking the family or the people who are doing that, we would love to purchase some books in honor of your
That's a good idea.
beloved, and then tell them what their passion is. If they were interested in, youth sports, or if they were really dedicated to the environment, then we buy some books that are going to circulate, that are going to make a difference to the community, and put a book plate in that person's honor. And we could establish an amount for that sort of a donation also. So that was just a thought and another way to honor the person. And I think that it's lovely because, people want their interests to be put on. So just a thought. But if you two are willing to work on that and come back with something, that would be great. Thank you very much. And thanks for pulling this all together, Yvette. It's good to have it all in one place to work on.
I didn't do it, it was Joanne.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you,
Joanne.
I'm sure she's watching.
We'll meet and then come back to us. Yeah.
So,
Or send us an email.
Right.
To review.
great. Okay. So if there's nothing other under new business, we'll move on to the operating budget. So we have the September ledger and the invoice manifest. Does everybody have those in front of them?
I will. I finally
Okay.
got connected.
Great. Great. So, do you want me to?
Hmm?
Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Or do you want to wait till you get your stuff?
Oh, I have it.
Okay.
I was going through these and to compare with the general ledger, and I found a couple that, the total invoice in the September manifest didn't match the total amount on the general ledger. There were 3 different accounts that the totals didn't match up, and I don't know if there was just something funky with how things are gathered or whatnot, but, where is it? The other outside services, programs, and travel and meetings, the totals didn't match.
So yeah, library programs, I think there was like a $300 difference, so.
And then other outside services had $240, and then the travel and meetings was $1,502.
I don't have an answer for that right now.
Okay.
I mean, I can go dig in the files if you want, or,
No, I figure there's something that maybe just wasn't clicked in, like, when Joanne grabs the ledger.
I have no idea.
Yeah, so.
What
just-
was the other line besides travel and meetings? What was the first one you mentioned?
Other outside services
Other
and
outside
programs.
services.
So could you see what that's all about and just let us know if Joanne
The
knows
total, or for each.
there was something missing? $300 for the library program amount. I'm sure it's just something was paid and it didn't show up on there.
About $550.
I'm sure it's an easy thing to find out. Were there any other concerns on the invoices or general ledger? No? Okay. All right, we have the fiscal year 2020-21 budget draft on our agenda. Is that just a placeholder, just to keep it there? Okay. All right. And moving on to the director's report.
So the fiscal year budget draft is still in process.
I haven't received it from Paul.
But we'll just have it on there because it's coming up, So on to Yvette's report.
Okay. All right. So there are several gifts for you to vote to accept. The Friends of the Library donated $600 toward general library needs. This is money from the book sale, and they are transferring $600 as a, in a batch.
What did the book sale earn?
Hmm?
What did the book sale earn?
I don't have that number.
Oh,
They meet at the end of the month,
Ah.
so.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept the Friends' $600 donation towards general library needs?
I move we accept the $600 donation from the Friends toward general library needs.
I second.
All in favor? Passes 5-0.
The Friends also donated $276 towards adult summer reading prizes. This was something they had said that they were going to do, and it's acting kind of like a reimbursement because the prizes were,
Mm-hmm.
purchased with a credit card, and now they're paying the bill.
Okay, great. So is there a motion to accept the Friends $276 towards the adult summer reading prizes?
I move
Okay.
that we accept the $276.
I'll second your motion. All in favor? Thank you to the Friends for their generous donations.
Okay, we have a donation of $50 from the Mallard Point Homeowners Association.
It's nice.
They use our meeting room, and we tell them there's no charge, but they always make a
Well,
donation.
that's very nice of
It's
them.
very, very
Very nice.
generous.
I'll make a motion to accept Mallard Point's $50 donation.
Second?
All in favor? Great, thank you.
And then I've mentioned before that I've been working with a Girl Scout named Anastasia Corman O'Reilly on her Silver Award. She did submit her Silver Award for approval from the council. I haven't heard it's been approved yet, but once it is approved, then I've invited her to come to your meeting to present a little bit about it, the same way we had Sarah Hardy present about the cake pans. So that might be in November. But the update on her circulating instrument collection is she has received a donation of a violin. She's received a donation of a keyboard, an electronic keyboard that rolls up. And then we received a donation, and I don't know who received, who donated to her the violin or the keyboard. But my husband, Jonathan Kauser, donated an electric guitar to the collection as well. So you can vote to accept these instruments.
I vote that we accept the donations from Anastasia Corman O'Reilly Instruments. The instruments she donated.
Or were donated as part of her project, right?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, great. All in favor? Thank you. It's really exciting. It's great to have those instruments available.
It is exciting. So we're still accepting, cash donations towards maintenance of the instruments, gig bags, beginner music books, instruments, purchasing instruments, and also still working with the Friends of the Library who wanted to make some kind of cash donation or purchase, underwrite one of these instruments. And then I know she's received a donation from the Lions Club in cash towards that, but I don't have it in hand. So
Great.
I
I'll
don't know
look
if she
forward to
has it in
hearing her
hand.
presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Under personnel, last month I had presented to you Jenny DeVost's letter of resignation. Her situation has changed and she withdrew her letter of resignation, but you had voted to accept it, so I'm asking you to vote to accept her withdrawal of her letter of resignation.
I move we accept the withdrawal of Jenny DeVos' letter of resignation.
A second.
Great. All in favor?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Also under personnel, I've received a letter of resignation from Emily Sennett, who's the head of our youth services department. Emily is leaving to take a higher paying head of children's position at the Bedford Public Library. Her last day will be November 8th.
That is very sad. Very happy for her, but very sad for us.
With regrets, I move that we accept Emily Senat's resignation as head of youth services.
I'll second.
Okay.
I said it.
Janet, second. Okay,
With
all
regrets.
in favor? And we wish her well.
I don't know if there's anything else in terms of highlights or questions that you have about the rest of the report. You also had the building and maintenance list, the projects that were listed. So if you, I don't know, if you have questions about any of
Well, I
these?
wanted to jump back to Emily for a minute.
Absolutely.
How long has Emily worked here? 2 years? 3?
I think it's 2.5.
2.5. is it you guys the library staff would just make some sort of, oh, hey, congratulations or goodbye, or do you guys have any kind of,
We usually take care of that, yeah.
and do we have to do anything as a board? Or when people have left in the past, you've had a book for patrons to sign. I don't know if Emily's been there long enough, but she, I think, has made an impact on the community and the kids and families. I don't know if they need that type
Well,
of
that's a good
place
question.
to-
Everyone is different.
yeah.
I mean, everyone's different. A lot of times we take guidance from the staff, what their wishes are. Some people are very private
Mhm.
and they want to just leave.
Right.
You know, some
Yeah.
people are shy and don't want the fuss.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
other times, you know, yes, if someone's been around for a very long time, then you kind of demand the fuss. Be fussed over them. You know, it's different. It's a little bit of a delicate situation when you have someone, especially I would say in youth services, sure, someone who's, you know, worked at the circ desk. We've had several staff who've been here for years and retired after many, many, many years and didn't want recognition. But we said, well, why don't we put a book out and then people can say their goodbyes. There's a lot of different ways we can do this. I haven't talked to Emily about what she wants.
Right.
And, you know, the staff have been notified, but I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
we traditionally, and this is another trustee gift, traditionally, and I don't know how far back this goes, the staff who leaves receives a pen.
Yeah.
Very nice pen. And I shop for the pen. You're welcome to shop. All y'all can shop for a pen. I don't mind shopping. I love shopping, but I wouldn't want any of you to miss out on the joy of shopping.
That would be a
Should we
burden to
fight
me.
over it?
I love it. It's just because you're shopping for a present. It's so much fun. But no, I mean, the board has usually tasked the director with, you know, go take care of this. So yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes we have a little cake in the break room, but it depends.
So we'll trust that you take your lead from Emily and decide
We will, but if you want to be notified when we say goodbye to her, absolutely let me know, and I will let you know.
That'd be
Oh,
great.
yeah, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Before we leave your report, I just have to go back to Chris Bojalian. That was such an amazing.
Bojalian.
Bojalian, I'm sorry. It
It's
was
like Royale. That's how I had to remember
I'm
Bojalian.
still not going to say it correctly. He was wonderful.
Wasn't
It
he?
was wonderful to have such a well-known, fantastic author there. And Janice, you were there.
Yes, I
Yes,
was there.
it
It was
was
fabulous.
Wonderful. And to see so many people in the
was.
community come out, the Little Theater, it was really fantastic. So thank you to you and the staff who
welcome.
brought someone like him here. He was great.
He was intelligent and engaging and gracious.
Yes.
Lovely, just a lovely person to have as a performer. You know, just
It was much more than just a discussion about his books. It was really
Yeah. And he's
enlightening about things that happen in the world and how a fiction writer can really contribute to getting people to go, oh, that happened? Oh, wow. Yeah, I probably should know that happened.
yeah.
So it was great.
Yes. Thank you. It was
You're
really
welcome.
wonderful.
That was a feather in my cap, as it were.
great.
It was a fantastic event.
I do have an unrelated question to the author.
Mhm.
You have the town's Joint Loss Prevention Committee
Mhm.
at its annual visit.
Yep.
What does that mean? What do they look for?
Okay, that's a great question. So the town of Merrimack has something called a joint loss committee, and it's populated by representatives from each town department. So the library, we send Jared, you know, because he's her maintenance person, so usually the maintenance person goes. And what the joint loss committee does is they tour all of the town buildings at different times throughout the year, so ours is September. Look at the building, kind of, inspect it to see what are any ongoing issues, some problems, has this thing been tested and updated and that kind of thing. So, they tour all of the buildings in town throughout the year.
So do they have a checklist they use for the library to check like HVAC and
Yeah.
that sort of thing?
Yeah, and if there are any concerns that they have, then they will submit it to us in a report, and then it's my job to make sure that it gets addressed. You know.
Okay.
My understanding is that,
Committee would be interested in that?
yeah, well, they look through, I think this is a pretty
every
common
year,
thing in,
yeah.
for municipalities, and they look at things with an eye to safety. Like, it could even be something as simple as, that cord should not be here, people can trip on it. They're looking for all
Yeah, yeah,
kinds
yeah.
of different
Mhm.
things, too. So not just building structural things,
Oh,
but
n-
like
no.
safety of patrons and staff, and how to have a good
Right.
work environment.
Like
that.
we had a great example of that is a couple years ago. We had our eyewash stations installed in the sink that's in tech services, which would service an issue if it happened on the main floor, and then also in the staff kitchen. That's where the other eyewash station is in case something happens. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's outside the kitchen. It's a little kind of module that you can, undo the caps and squirt the water in the hallway. But that came up, where's your eyewash station? No, we don't have one. Oh, okay, well, let's get one. Okay, let's figure that out, So things like that, or the AED machines, make sure the pads are, up to date, and, definitely, looking at where cords are, where mats are, door stops. Yeah, lots of little things that aren't necessarily structural, but,
Yeah, they're looking to prevent loss in case of like insurance and accidents and that sort of thing. And it's really helpful to have someone with experience look at the library through a different lens, because, you'll have people from all the different departments that can
right.
see.
And John Manueli from the fire department is on this committee, and Tom Boland from finance is also on this committee. And so, yep, sure.
That's nice. Do you have a start date for the windows?
You
Gonna
know,
get cold.
we're all very eager for this project to finish and be completed. Just start and complete.
I'm sure you'll let us know.
Very eager. Oh, you'll hear me scream. Yay! They're here!
Rejoicing. Great.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything else for Yvette? Report?
And at this point, there is no anticipated that the library has to close while this is happening.
No,
But it's really
no, we're
kind
open.
of which is really lovely.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Okay. So, I'm going to the balance. The balance sheet. Laura, you said, you okay?
Yeah, I'm looking, here we are.
Okay. So the beginning balance, this is for the month of September. Beginning balance for fines was $24,055.44. And our ending balance is $16,608.63. If you happen to have looked through it, there were 7 computers were purchased, and then that was the biggest one, and then the server. Then for special, our beginning balance was $14,194.44. And our ending balance for the month is $18,369.64. Questions, comments? If you look at the budget versus actuals for our trustee funds budget for the fiscal year 1920, it's been three months into our trustee budget money. And if you look under the percent remaining, things that are around 75% it's on track. So if it's actually less than that, it's better. If it's
More than that,
more
you're
than that,
using
right,
Mhm.
you got, right,
too quickly or have a
exactly.
big thing that
So,
requires on money.
just throwing that out there. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, great. Acceptance of minutes. So we have two sets of minutes. We have the public and non-public minutes.
Well, I have a couple of issues on the, we're talking about the I'm talking about the September minutes.
September, yep,
Yep,
September 19th.
that's all we've done.
We go to page 3,
Got it.
the very top bullet. Says, people who work in the lower office are brainstorming for reorganization. I have no
Wait.
idea what that means.
Wait, okay, let me just see if it's back here on page 2. Oh. Oh. All right, I can make that clearer, obviously. I mean, what I meant was people who work in the downstairs offices. In other words, the office past the kitchen. Are brainstorming, are working with each other to try and reorganize that space so
That
that
would
people.
clarify
Yes,
what
I
you're
will,
talking about.
I will clarify.
And then, just underneath that, Yvette has met with the Merrimack Lions to develop a potential program or donation,
Right,
possibly hearing screening.
right.
So that wasn't clear to me.
All right, well, the Merrimack, I mean, it was a longer entry in her report. I'll just copy it out. And that'll make it clearer. She met with Michelle Lettinen, and they discussed possible things that the library and the Lions Club could cooperate on. And some of them might
It's really
be,
a collaboration on a.
or a donation, or a donation. They don't know yet.
It might be both.
It might be both.
So it really is a program or a donation?
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
and
Both
or,
those were
and or.
floated, they're just interested in working with us, they
And
support what we're doing, they
Yeah.
like what we're doing.
And there was
yeah.
a hearing screening is something that they normally do, so maybe they could do it at the library, whatever. But I'll expand and
Yeah, I think that just
make it
needs.
clearer.
And then under technical services, the first bullet,
Lots of ordering, that's what she said. That's a quote.
wasn't sure it was necessary, but, because you say as of 9/17, they ordered over 350 items for the library.
That's, yeah, okay, well, you want me to take out lots of ordering?
Well,
Unless you put it in quotations.
Either way.
well, then you'd have to reference. who
teasing.
said it.
Okay, that's fine.
It's a quote, you have to reference who says it.
Okay, it's fine.
And then under page 4,
I liked it, it was kind of quirky, so I just threw it in. But yes, you did. Page 4, I got it.
so page 4, number B, trustee budget,
Yeah, September action items, transfer 10,000.
right. But number 2, it says, review the trust fund and non-trust fund investment policies. They are approved. So perhaps that could be reworded a little bit, because they were already reviewed,
Sure.
to say the trust fund and non-trust fund investment policies were reviewed and approved. It's a little clearer. And then under C, passports. Passport applications are very popular in contributing funds. Was there a specific amount that was mentioned as to how much it contributed that month for the previous month? I don't recall.
I think that showed up in
I'm
the
sure it did. It
treasurer's
showed up in the,
Because I think we talked about it, just noticing it, not that we
I didn't have it, but
we could you we
I
could
can
just take it from the
find it.
treasurer's report.
I don't know if it's necessary, it just seemed a little, like there was a missing piece to me, but
Okay,
perhaps not.
how much? I'll find that out. So, I have
And then, under B,
It was getting breezier as I was getting more frustrated.
and then under LBOT committees, B, Finance Committee,
Yep, just, oh,
you say see old business F.
right, which is right here under
That's referencing,
Old business,
old business F.
what's
Back
F?
to,
F under our old
F,
business, there's
under old
A through
business.
F.
oh, here.
Do you want to say above? See above?
Sure.
Old business F, would that help?
Business.
Sure.
So it's just to refer back to that, so you don't have to
Okay.
write it
In
back
other words, I
in.
just didn't
So-
want to typo that again.
Okay, just say refer to section F under old
Okay.
business, because I really looked at that and it sort of felt like
Okay.
it was out of place.
Okay, so, refer to section F in old business above.
You're going to put
In-
above
in-
in
no,
quotes
don't
and
say
say that.
above, say in old, yeah, under
Under old
business, yeah.
business.
No, she said old business already, but old business above indicating it's
fine.
earlier, so
That's
we're
fine.
good, we're good, we're good.
And then number 2,
Yep,
says trust fund and non-trust fund investment policies. These policies are acceptable except that there is a need to clarify procedures for flexibility of some items. I have no idea what that's saying.
what it's saying is that, they are, that the details of which line items can be, have the money moved.
Yeah,
in
but
a-
those aren't under the trust fund and non-trust fund investment policies. I think
Yeah,
that's why it was.
It's under the
in-
guidelines.
Yeah,
I think that you
Okay.
must have there was a confusion there.
Okay, so,
There really, we reviewed the trust fund and the non-trust fund investment policies, and we approved those as were.
right,
And then the guidelines, Deb had a couple of questions. We've talked about adding the gift thing to it. So I think really it would need to say that the guidelines will be reviewed by the Finance Committee and recommendations presented at the next meeting, or something like that. Because that's really what it
okay,
is.
so I don't, okay, these policies, that whole
That whole
sentence
line,
just goes
yep.
away.
Yeah,
So I have
and you,
moved and seconded that the trust fund and non-trust fund policies are accepted as written. Motion passed 5-0-0, and,
were reviewed and accepted, because they weren't new policies. So the old one was reviewed and accepted as is. Because it's not a new policy we're introducing, it was the same one. It was just the annual review is what it was.
okay. And then, specify the ability to reallocate for year end. That will be in the discussion of the guidelines. This is for the guidelines.
Do you know, we already have that in there, I don't know.
Okay, I'll take it out.
Well, I'm not sure
I'll be happy to take it out.
what it was referring to.
So my question, if I remember correctly, was about the line that said that only trustees have the authority to move things from different line items, but that's, if it's a guideline, that's not actually,
Well, it's part of the RSA's.
okay. So then you answered my question, so, I just had a question, and I wanted
Okay.
clarification, so.
Yeah.
So it's not a guideline, it's,
It's a
this is
right, that's not a
RSA, so you
guideline.
have to do
That's
what it,
what they were based on.
Mhm.
So,
I'm just gonna put that you moved and Deb seconded, to accept the reviewed, and to review and accept the trust fund investment policy and the non-trust investment policies as they were written. Motion passed.
I think that's fine, and then
And then
clearly,
that's it, everything
Yep,
else is
because
gone.
it sounds like your answer to my
you
question
could
about the guidelines
yeah,
was
you
that
could
it's.
say
part-
the guidelines will be reviewed by the Finance Committee and recommendations brought forth to
Yeah,
the board.
well, that's in this,
well,
Something
actually,
like that.
on number
Okay.
7, under action items, it says develop trustee investment guidelines, and that's,
Yeah, that's all right.
yeah, that was, it's, the number 7 should have been um, just
Review.
Oh, I had that
reword
outlined too.
essentially,
Yeah,
that,
Number 7 should be review.
Yeah, but why do I say review? Because you might find there's nothing to reword. Maybe you look at it and say,
yeah.
no, we're really happy
Okay,
with the way
so
this is.
review the,
the investment guidelines, we've already done that.
No.
I think
This
these
was-
these different documents are getting confusing. No?
this number 7,
Yeah.
the develop trustee investment guidelines, is,
We already have.
it's not written. What we're supposed to do is look at what Deb brought up in terms of either rewrite, clarify, review,
Right, which is
that
what we
section.
did.
That's
Right.
what number 7 should say.
So,
Okay,
how shall I,
yes.
what shall I say?
Okay, so you have investment committee, so the.
What do you mean, I have
I,
investment
well, on the
committee?
side, it says who's doing it, so I
Yes,
wanted to see that.
yes.
So it's review, it's more like just review trustee guidelines per Deb's comment.
Yeah, and if you come back and say, no, we are really comfortable, this is exactly what it says, that's fine. It was a question, and sometimes it is what it is, so that's fine.
Yeah,
And if you're doing the gift policy anyways, then it's.
Yeah.
you'll have
All
to-
right, so but you want me to, all right, so I'm gonna put that as a November
Sure.
action item.
okay.
And should I take out from September, should I take number 7 out? Or should I just say it's ongoing?
Um,
Well, wait a minute, I can reference a specific thing she had a question about. Maybe that'll help. clarify.
Well, I think that we also don't want to get into that because that was the whole point of you guys meeting
Yeah,
and
no,
talking
we
about it. So we don't
Yeah,
need to
just
rehash that. Yeah,
Okay.
just,
Okay.
yeah. So we,
Finance
and like I
committee.
said, if you come back and you are like, no, this is really is how this works, that's fine. Just that was asking for clarification and that's,
Review trustee guidelines per Deb's comment. November. I'll just put it,
okay.
that's fine.
I think I had one more comment.
Go,
I'm checking, I highlighted it. Oh, yeah. So,
which page?
page 1. D, August action items.
Yep,
Staff evaluations will no longer take place on anniversary dates. Oops, Yvette told us this.
right,
And then they all will be scheduled during a specific time frame.
right, because it's like, it's gonna be like
Like
couple of
late
months, like
spring.
spring or fall. That's
Spring.
It's spring, like,
is
didn't you,
spring?
yeah, I wrote like
Okay.
April, May timeframe.
April, May.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I,
Okay, I'll put during the spring. I wasn't sure, because then you said, but it could be any time, and then you started giving me other times, and I got confused, so.
But we
Well-
aren't confining ourselves to April and May, we're saying spring.
Oh, if I remember the conversation, I might have thrown lots and lots and lots of dates around for you. But, asking Janet, when do you need this information for the budget?
Right.
It's, okay, June, and then back it up,
Right.
and you were like, give yourself 2 months, Yvette, so that's where we started to
Spring
talk
and
about lots and lots of
Okay.
months, but really, April, May made the most sense.
Fine,
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm just gonna say during the spring. Or should I say?
April,
during
May.
April, May.
Who knows when spring
Yeah,
will
it
be.
kind of makes us have a fixed time in mind, and then it makes us sort of think ahead, or, that kind of, that helps me. I know, I need to think about this in March, because April's coming up.
So do we want Karen to come back with the corrections
Yeah,
or
I'll
approve
just,
with it?
I'll just,
Okay.
I'll just
There you go, that sums it up.
See,
So-
I know, it's just easier if it's Kevin.
You
Um,
need a little like plate that says, these are the people on the Building Exploratory Committee, and we just paste it somewhere.
so, what, okay.
Trustees aren't.
Well, okay, so what
This
I,
is the committee that we talked about that, with the, because you would like to attend as
Yeah.
well, because you had been on it, and that Janet and I would be going, so we said anybody could come, but we would post it as a meeting, because there would be more than 3 of us there to hear the architect talk. So we would just cover our bases that we will be in a meeting with a quorum, but
So-
it's really an information gathering meeting.
So these are the this is the architects so that
So-
we're gonna meet with?
what you asked me to do
Yeah.
is to contact 3 architects.
Correct.
These are 3 architects that Janella McDonald from Stibler Associates recommended because she works with them. They've also worked on libraries, you know, so I know that. But, so you have 2 dates. That's what I was tasked with. You know, try to keep it to 1, but if you
But-
have to go to 2, go to 2. So I had to go to 2. And so the first one is going to be on the 21st at 6:30. You'll meet with 1 person.
On the 21st.
21st, my office. And then on the 29th, you'll have your public hearing first at 6:15, and then you'll meet with 2 architects, 1 at a time, 1 at 6:30 and 1 at 7:30.
I see.
And I've asked them to talk to us without any kind of binding agreement, contract, you know, cost of project, nothing is binding. But we need to understand the scope of a project. Is the Stibler plan feasible? That's one. And how does that compare to a new building? Not knowing where the new building is. They all know the history of Merrimack Library with the proposed Pinenberg property. They all know that already. And they've all been given a copy of the Stibler plan. And they, pretty much you can ask any question you want, but it'll probably be a 30-minute meeting, maybe 45 minutes. And they know that we want to know what's something like a timeline, what's something like a budget, you know, what is the scope of this, what is going to cost, is it feasible? So,
Okay, great, thank you for setting those up.
you're welcome.
So you said they know the history of, and you
Of
named
when
a
the
name.
town voted to return the money that had been saved for a new building.
Okay.
Everybody knows that.
Well, I didn't until a couple of years ago, so.
I found out at a conference, because they said, "Oh, you're from Merrimack? Isn't that the town that?" Yes, yes, it is. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. So, which is helpful that they know,
Mhm.
you know, and they
Yeah, absolutely.
understand we
The
have a
context of
fiscally
it.
conservative town, and
Mhm.
but we have a building that we're outgrowing.
I look forward to hearing what they have to say.
Same here.
So, will you post that meeting for us? That will be there.
course.
Thank you. Friends at the Public Library, you said they're meeting next week?
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess. Yeah, the 30th.
Was there any news from
Next week.
September?
They're meeting on the 28th.
So 2 weeks, more or less. Okay. Any news from the Friends? Anything we need to know about?
Well, the next big event is the turkey shoot, which is November 21st. At the, it's usually at the, isn't the, I'm not good with the schools in this town.
High school. High
High
school
s- high school.
cafeteria.
Okay, and the Development Fund will be meeting on the 23rd. And Town Center Committee.
The Town Center Committee did not meet. We lost one of our major members, Jackie Flood, passed away a couple of weeks ago. So there is a meeting scheduled for Friday, which is, what, today, the 18th.
Okay.
So.
So, moving on to the Library Board of Trustee committees. Is there anything from personnel?
No.
Anything from building and maintenance? No. Finance Committee? You're going to
Just
be
that
meeting?
we'll meet about the guidelines and we'll meet about the gift policy.
Great. So, we just need to look at our action items for this month, what we've generated.
My action item is to redo most of them.
Okay, so you'll redo the minutes. The Finance Committee's going to meet.
Right,
Yeah.
Finance Committee is going to meet for guidelines and gift policy, that's gonna be action.
Not give policy.
Or
It could be.
make a recommendation.
Well,
that
As opposed
review
to
the,
I'd like to
Come up
see a
with
policy,
you
not,
wanna see a
not a
policy?
guideline.
recommendations for handling of gifts.
Recommendations for handling of gifts.
And just for our notes, we'll get the quarterly stats review next month. Does that sound more likely, Yvette?
Oh,
The
yeah.
quarterly stats, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you could get back to us on those budget things, just to
Mhm.
figure out what happened there. So, is there anything else?
Wait a second.
I have one.
Is there anything else big coming up, town-wise?
We're waiting on the budget.
Okay.
I mean, that's
That's big.
Yeah, well,
all I'm thinking about.
Janet?
sometimes I
Yeah, that's
feel
big.
like, oh, this happened at the same time last year, and then I act surprised, I'm like, no, this is when this does traditionally happen, so that's sort of me thinking out loud.
And you are gonna ask about why the ledger and the general ledger and the invoices don't match up?
I'll find out.
I had that,
Okay, and did you have one other thing, Janet? you
Yeah,
said?
just to say, I'll rename the salary schedule and send it out to everybody
Mm-hmm.
with a date and all that.
and, yes, and then it will go into the trustee manual.
Great. The calendar is quite large, actually. There's some things missing from this one, so I'm just going to read through the calendar, and then we did want to go into a brief non-public session that was not on your agenda. So the calendar coming up, we have a lot. We have October 22nd in the Lowell Room, The Secret Life of Library Books. October 20th.
Okay.
Yeah,
This
I
stuff
can give
isn't
this to
on
you.
here.
I have it listed from another copy of an agenda. This was the agenda that we made notes on in your office, and it
Yep.
has all of those things on it. So I'll just give this to
I
you
have
when
my
we're
also
done,
note
so you
one,
have
so.
it all.
Okay, go ahead.
October 23rd, the Development Fund will be meeting. And we already heard about October 21st and then 29th, we'd be meeting with the architects. October 28th, the Friends of the Library will be meeting. November 7th, we will be having an appointment with the town council. Yvette and Janet and I will be going to talk before them. Janet's going to do all of the talking.
Yeah, that's right.
No.
Yeah.
No, not really. It's an opportunity for us to share with the town council things that are happening in with the library board of trustees.
So
This whole
you
thing.
will be
Okay.
going, does that
you
preclude
put
anybody
Virginia
else
on this?
joining you?
She'll give me hers.
Oh, no, you can come.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just an appointment that
Alright.
we sit
You'd like
before
to
them.
come.
Yeah, we sit before them, and from what Yvette
Alright.
says, we will work on
time
it
is it?
ahead of time, what we're going to say.
Oh, all right,
7 o'clock,
November
7th.
7th.
November 7th.
November 19th will be our next trustee board meeting, and the 21st will be the annual turkey shoot, which if I'm correct, the proceeds from that last year helped bring
Mm-hmm.
Crispo Jalian here, so
What are you
that's wonderful.
raising money for this year?
The committee, the Friends talked about more programs, another
Yeah.
author,
Mhm.
you know.
More author
More
visits.
authors?
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Nice.
Nice.
And more diverse.
Yeah.
Authors.
Yeah,
If
well, I don't
possible.
have any names from the staff yet.
Were there any other items for the calendar that we should mention? Okay. So we're going to go into a non-public session. Can I have a motion to go into non-public session?
I make a motion to go into non-public at 8:30.
And then we're going to do the roll call vote, so we each have to say if we agree to go into it.
Laura seconded.
Laura seconded. So, okay. Laura, non-public, you vote yes to go into?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yes.
Janet? I vote yes.
Laura, yes.
Okay, so we will be going into non-public.
Are we saying what the reason?
Personnel.
Person.